Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the fourth module for the CCI Clearance Preparedness Program. The next module will be on June 4th from noon to 1 p.m. Cybersecurity Authorities, Laws, and Regulations. You'll receive a calendar invite this month and before each module, along with reminders. Please sign in to the Zoom modules with your first and last name. A few of you are still not doing this request. There might be someone else with the same name as you, and we want to ensure you receive attendance credit. Individuals who did not register and received links from friends will also not receive a badge because I don't have their emails and they did not complete the registration process. As another note, I've been receiving some emails from some students saying, hey, I've missed a few. Would I be able to still get a badge if I watch the YouTube videos? We definitely encourage you to go back and watch, but no, you will not receive a badge unless you have attended live 8 to 9 or 10 sessions. As always, please reach out to me if you have any questions regarding attendance and module logistics. I will turn this over to Dr. Eric Berger to get started on today's module.
Thank you very much, Kendall. And again, thank you all for attending today. This is, I don't want to say the most fun, but this is one of the topics that gets a lot of interest, and there is a lot of confusion over what happens and what's the interaction with clearances and drug use. As usual, a recap. We talked about where you can work inside and outside government with a clearance. And as a preview, I will go into some of the particular agencies, how they treat drug use in particular. The second bit, we talked about the clearance process, the SF-86, the interviews, the data collection. We talked about the regulations that, again, these are not ad hoc, whatever the investigator feels like. There are set rules and regulations with the goal of everybody being treated the same. The general disclaimer is really important for today's because we are going to talk about law. I am not a lawyer. I am not giving legal advice. If you are in a situation around drug usage, or for that matter, any bit like if you are contesting a negative adjudication, uh, please, it's worth the money to go see a real lawyer to get real legal advice. And especially as I talk about a little bit state law, again, I'm not a lawyer. It's accurate to the best of my knowledge and ability, but uh, the laws around drug use, um, possession, and manufacture is highly evolving. And they're evolving differently in the different states. So again, if you have an issue, please go see a lawyer with knowledge of your situation. So this is the slide, and it's actually very simple. The law is explicit. It is not in couched language. If you use illegal drugs, if you abuse prescription drugs, if you are addicted to drugs, you will lose your clearance or you will not get a clearance. That's very explicit. Um, there is a time factor here, though. If you used, notice the tense in the past tense, if you have used illegal drugs or if you've abused prescription drugs, then your facts and circumstances, as well as the policies of the particular agency, as well as the nature of the job you're applying to, that will determine your eligibility. So it is neither I used once, does that mean I'll never get a clearance? Or some places you lose used once, you will never get a clearance at that agency. One thing I will say over and over again, do not lie on your SF-86. Do not lie at your interview. That is actually worse than declaring that uh, you had used illegal drugs. And it's also a separate infraction. Uh, uh, the federal government actually tries to protect you, tries to encourage you to be fully frank and truthful. Um, but lying is in itself against the law. Uh, and the real heart of today's talk is that federal law may be different than state law. Again, I use the official title, A Deep Dive into the Legality of Drug Use, but we really hear is, but it's legal in my state. And the answer is it may be legal in your state, but federal law is different. Here's an encouragement that the federal government has. In this section about illegal use of drugs and drug activity, if you answer truthfully, if you say, yes, I used cocaine, or yes, I grew marijuana, uh, they will not use that to prosecute you for that. Of course, if you're doing it right now, then you step out of the room and you get arrested. Well, you're carrying whatever. But the point is, they want you to be truthful. And again, this might be one of those questions where you decide maybe having a job that requires a clearance is not for you. Um, but hold out hope yet. 'Cause I want to talk about what the situation is if you have used illegal drugs or illegally used prescription drugs. But also note, you want to be truthful here. You may have broken federal law, even if it's legal in your state. Even if your state has, for example, decriminalized marijuana, that is still a federal offense. So you notice here the blue states. In the blue states, and this is the coloring thing. I would not call some of these states Democratic leaning, but in the states that are colored here blue, uh, cannabis is generally legal. In the green states, in those states, medical marijuana is legal. Uh, in the states with a dot, some use and some possession might still be on the books as illegal, but you will not be prosecuted for it. Now, again, I'm not giving advice here. I'm just highlighting that there's a difference between state law and federal law. If you're like in North Carolina and you get stopped with some marijuana, if you say, well, Dr. Berger said it was okay, no, Dr. Berger is not saying it's okay, just highlighting that the rules are different in the different states. And, again, notice since we are here in Virginia, what is legal in Virginia? You can have medical cannabis. You can get a card that allows you to acquire and consume cannabis. Uh, if you're a recreational user, you're allowed to have small amounts of cannabis for personal use in your private home. If you are walking to a friend's house with up to an ounce of cannabis for personal use, and that's actually a key thing in Virginia, not and you see the last bullet, not to sell them that half ounce, not to trade them for that half ounce, but you're just, using it. Uh, that's legal now in Virginia. You can grow your own. Growing is another word for manufacturing. So you can manufacture this drug of having up to 4 cannabis plants. That is legal as far as I know. Again, please don't start growing because I said so. But the point is, that's what the statute says in Virginia. Uh, it is a dynamic situation. The last administration and in the last legislative session, the executive branch wanted to reclassify marijuana as being less dangerous than things like heroin or acid. There was a bill in the Senate. Neither of those things happened. So again, I'm going to go backwards. This is the legality of marijuana state by state. This is the legality as far as the federal government is concerned. It is currently federal law that marijuana is what's known as a Schedule One drug, that it has a high potential for abuse, that it has no accepted medical use and treatment in the United States, and that there is a lack of accepted safety for use, even under medical supervision. Now, you might ask, well, wait a minute. Uh, but here we have a number of states where it's legal for medical use. How could it possibly be a Schedule One drug? My answer is write your congressperson, write your member, because right now the law is again explicit. The law defines marijuana as being a Schedule One drug. You might want to ask your representative to consider bills that would say, well, let's actually look at the science. Let's actually look at how it's being used. But is that an argument that you can make when you go apply for a clearance and you say that you occasionally smoke on the weekends? And the answer is no. Right now, the law says marijuana is a Schedule One illegal drug. You are using an illegal drug under federal law. So we talked about manufacturing. In the case of marijuana that's growing, distribute or dispense or possess with intent to manufacture, distribute or dispense a controlled substance. And again, marijuana is a controlled substance. I know I'm focusing on marijuana, but the same story for cocaine and other illegal drugs. And again, we saw that, at least according to the statute in Virginia, possessing under 1 ounce is not a crime. It's not illegal. According to the federal government, federal law, simple possession is illegal. So it doesn't matter that it's legal in Virginia. It is illegal as far as the federal government is concerned. So what does this mean in practice? One is, again, the first bullet I had in the TLDR. If you have a clearance and you use, you will be in trouble. You are most likely going to lose your clearance. So now let's get beyond that. What are the other scenarios? One is you're applying for a clearance. You are currently using one of these drugs. You've taken our advice, you declare, you say, yep, I'm using marijuana now. Well, the reality is you are violating federal law. And so this is not a gray area. You will not be cleared. There's no adjudication for that. Life goes on. There's no recourse there. But now let's look at that third bullet. You're applying for a clearance. In the past you had used, and you declare. In this scenario, you may be cleared. It's not all over for you, and we will, in a little bit, dive in a bit deeper on different scenarios and again, what the different agencies' policies are. The big factor you might recall as we went through the process, and especially the laws, the government is looking at the whole person. So it's less about did you ever make a mistake, or were you like for certain medical treatments, you were prescribed medical marijuana, you used it at that time, and then you got over the need, and so you stopped getting the medical marijuana. Uh, they're looking at the whole person. And the thing they're looking for is what is the likelihood of continued use? Because I can't say it enough times, do not forget to declare. If you fail to answer truthfully questions on the SF-86 or questions in your interview, that is a violation of federal law. There are two caveats here. As I had suggested earlier, truthfully answer the question asked. If you're 35 years old and when you were 18, you used drugs, the question is formulated, have you in the past 10 years? Uh, so truthfully answering in that scenario is no. In the past 10 years, I have not used. Uh, do note some questions are, have you ever? Ever means ever with one caveat, which I'll get to in a moment. But again, if you lie on the SF-86 or give half truths in your interview, you will not be cleared. So you will not get your clearance. As well, you run the risk of being prosecuted. So really, it's not worth it. Uh, Again, we don't make this up. There are guidelines. The Director of National Intelligence has clarified uh, general guidelines. One of them is, again, you cannot be using today. If you're currently using illegal drugs, you cannot get a clearance. But if you had used in the past, then the adjudicator is supposed to consider how much. Was it once? Was it all the time? How long ago? Was it 7 years ago, 5 years ago, or yesterday? And again, the determinant is that future use is unlikely to recur. And how do they decide that? Well, how much did you use it? And how long ago was it? Again, they also revisit manufacturing and distribution. Uh, Clearly, with the exception of marijuana, that's going to have a very dim view. Marijuana, it will depend. But there's also a reminder of CBDs. So uh, if you're going to be scientific about it, hey, CBD is hemp. We make ropes out of this stuff. We make joint oil, as in uh, arthritis joints, not rolling joints. Um, so, isn't it hemp? Well, the answer is it's not marijuana, but no. So there are a couple of things. One is CBD is actually not technically cannabis if it contains less than 0.3% THC, which is the active ingredient, the hallucinogen in marijuana. That's a recent change, less than 10 years ago. And again, act of Congress. So if you want a different answer, please call, please write your member of Congress, your senator. Uh, so the thing is, all right, you get a container of CBD oil, and it says it's hemp because it's less, than 0.3% THC. The thing is, these are not marketed as drugs. They are not evaluated by the FDA, and CBD drugs are notoriously mislabeled. So even if you think you're getting a 0.25 THC or maybe even a THC-free hemp product, it might contain just enough THC that you will fail your drug test. And the government is pretty strict on that one, is even if you've been taking legal amounts of legal CBD, if you fail the drug test, you failed, and you are likely to lose your clearance, and you really don't have very much recourse. So what about, you actually either, took the advice of your parents, you don't grow it, you don't smoke it, you don't sell it. So, you know, you don't need to listen to this lecture because none of this applies to you. Well, I got a surprise here. One thing the DNI did clarify is that even if you invest, so you don't smoke it, you don't grow it, you don't sell it, but you're investing in a dispensary company, you're investing in a agricultural company, a company that's growing marijuana. Basically, if they are making or selling substances contrary to the Controlled Substances Act, that is itself illegal. Uh, and that would definitively disqualify someone from having a clearance. Why do I bring this up? Personal example. I was looking at how do I want to diversify my portfolio? Oh, look, there's a couple of public companies. So listed on the NASDAQ, listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So what could be easier to buy? It can't be illegal. Well, it turns out that for clearance purposes, it is. Buying stock in that company means you're investing in a company that makes or sells substances contrary to the Controlled Substances Act. Even though they are legal registered businesses in New York or legal registered businesses in Colorado, California. By the way, the personal is I considered buying it. I didn't buy it because I found out about this. So even if you do not smoke or grow or sell, be aware that even just investing or having stock at one of these companies is disqualifying for a clearance. As I did say, I've been focusing on marijuana because that is the one that most commonly trips people up because it is legal in the Commonwealth. It is legal in more than half the states. But we are talking about the Schedule One drugs. In fact, most of them are the 1 through 5 drugs. So you might say, you might argue about marijuana, but most people would agree about heroin or LSD, fentanyl, uh, meth. Uh, Notice OxyContin's on there, but wait a minute, isn't that a prescription drug? And the answer is yes. If you have a prescription for it and you follow the prescription, that's fine. But if you are abusing a prescription drug or you're buying your friend's drug, or by the way, again, it's more than just are you abusing, but if you had some extra pills and you go sell them, that is an illegal sale. If you give them to a friend, that's a legal distribution of a prescription drug. Don't do it. By the way, this includes abusing over-the-counter drugs. Uh, Examples there would be, though now it's harder to get a lot of them, but antihistamines, uh, weight loss drugs. Uh, you'll actually notice that a number of uh, agencies have explicit policies about anabolic steroids, that use of anabolic steroids and certainly misuse of anabolic steroids would be a disqualifying scenario. And basically, the bottom line is, again, even if marijuana is legal, even if you have a prescription, if you are violating federal law, you are violating federal law. If you had in the past violated federal law, you had in the past violated federal law. It's just a fact. So what happens if you did violate the law in the past? And again, I'd say in the past, because again, if you are currently using, you can't get a clearance. In fact, uh, most agencies have a minimum, and most of them it's a year. We'll talk about some others. Again, Secret Service, if you go to this website, secretservice.gov/career/drug policy, they'll remind you if you've used marijuana or cannabis products, CBD, gummy, whatever, if it's less than a year since you used it, even if it's legal, you're in the Commonwealth, uh, don't bother applying. You're not going to get a clearance. If you are selling, manufacturing, or distribution, and again, remember for marijuana, manufacture includes growing, there they have a 10-year look back. And basically anything else is a no-go. If you're currently selling or you're selling just last year or whatever, that's a no-go. Uh, but again, they explicitly talk about the facts and circumstances. Uh, if you're a big time dealer taking a sabbatical, probably not going to happen. If you used it a little for medicinal purposes, even if it was legal and legally obtained, uh, and you hadn't used it since the medical issue that you got the medical marijuana prescription for, that would be a mitigating circumstance. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean you get the clearance, but it's not going to be an automatic no. The CIA, another place people go to. Here they actually say marijuana and cannabis products, they're looking at a 90-day look back. By the way, if you used 6 months ago and you apply today and you use next week, you're out, right? Because, even though you haven't even gotten the answer from them that they want to give you an interview, it's, 90-day look back or any time after. Same for the 1 year ones. Marijuana and cannabis, 90 days. Anything else, cocaine, ketamine, uh, 1 year minimum for everything else. And again, they emphasize even if it's legal in the jurisdiction. Uh, I actually value the way the CIA puts it, where they say, no matter what your history was, the key is exercising candor. Be truthful. What they're looking for, what the entire government is looking for, but trustworthiness and honesty. These are things that the government in general values. Are you going to be trustworthy? Because again, we are going to be trusting you with the nation's secrets that can cause serious harm to the nation or grave harm to the nation. So we want to know that you're trustworthy. If you think about the CIA, they do take on high stakes missions with a lot of life threatening consequences. So they want to know, I'll take a quote here, without a shadow of a doubt that the CIA can trust the members of its workforce. And so, if you're going to lie about your drug use when you're applying, uh, you're not being trustworthy with them. And so if you can't trust them, how are they going to trust you? And as it says, it can be used as a measure of your fitness to hold a security clearance. The FBI. So you remember the CIA was a 3 month look back. FBI is a 1 year look back. They do, and this is again a thing if you have medical THC, uh, most of the agencies will allow dronabinol. There are other medical THCs out there, but dronabinol is the only accepted one that I know of today. Again, check with your FSO if you are again, not abusing, but you happen to have a medical prescription for THC, you're using something else, find out what it is. And it might be the kind of thing where if your doctor says you can use dronabinol instead, you might want to talk to your doctor about changing your prescription. You still would need to wait 12 months. Check with your FSO though. Uh, Now, unlike the CIA, which said, well, the other stuff, we look back 1 year, the FBI is looking back 10 years. And, kind of makes sense. They do a lot of interdiction that is around illegal drugs. And they are kind of known as the more honest than honest agency. So they want to be able to be pretty confident that their workforce is trustworthy. Uh, they do have kind of guidelines for prescription drug misuse. Again, uh, following the prescription is not misuse. That is not uh, abuse. But if you are abusing prescription drugs, again, they're saying, well, was that more than a year ago? Again, you still need to declare because the question is, have you in the past 10 years? But, you would say, yeah, I was on OxyContin and I had a really hard time with it when I pulled my back 7 years ago. Uh, Actually, within 12 months. Yeah, so it would be 7 years ago. It took me a year to get clean, but especially after that experience, I haven't touched it since. Put that in the comments. They'll probably still ask you about it, but it'll be a quick conversation. If you don't say it, you might find yourself facing federal penalties. If you just say, yeah, I abuse drugs, they still might say, wow, this is a lot of stuff here. No, whereas if you have in the comments, uh, you can have explain your situation. Abusing prescription drugs, and they also includes inhalants and solvents here within the past 3 years. Notice anabolic steroids called out explicitly. If you used it without prescription, 10-year look back. Again, if you look at the job of the FBI, if you sold, distributed, manufactured, or transported drugs, they're looking back forever. Um, there was in last year's guide, they did mention something that is generally true. I really don't know why it was taken out. So if you're applying to the FBI and this applies to you, you might want to bring it up, not on your SF-86, but with the security officer, or if you're interviewing with the FBI, the person you're interviewing with. And that is, uh, this look back, and I talked about it when we were talking about the SF-86. It's have you in the past 10 years or since your 18th birthday. So if you're 22 years old, they're not asking for what's your usage back to when you were 12. They're asking for since your 18th birthday. 22 years, 20 years old within 3 years, they're not looking for what happened when you were 17. The eligibility guide for the FBI took out that sentence, but it's a thing to check. The Drug Enforcement Agency, they actually do have the sentence in there. If you use stuff before your 18th birthday, that is not going to be an automatic disqualification. They also allow dronabinol. Uh, Not a surprise, if you're using any other illegal drugs in the last 7 years, this is the Drug Enforcement Administration. So they're pretty strict about it. Now here's some mandatory disqualifications. Conviction for possession, conviction for being under the influence, or you've lied. But here's another twist: arrest. Uh, if you were arrested, you might want to talk to them first before applying to see whether the facts and circumstance of your arrest would be disqualifying. Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. There we have really interesting policy. Uh, if you were a dealer of anything or manufactured anything, when you were in a position of public responsibility, so they have that interesting caveat. Uh, if you ever did that, you're not eligible. If you were in a position of public responsibility, and you were addicted within the last 5 years, and obviously last 5 years includes today. So if you are addicted and you are in a position of public responsibility, you are disqualified. If you ever used illegal drugs, and again, including anabolic steroids, and you are in a position of public responsibility, you're disqualified. Now, what is a position of public responsibility? So that's any position which requires a federal government security clearance. By the way, if you've got a position that requires a clearance, which means you have a clearance, if you're doing any of this stuff, you've lost your clearance right there anyway. So this is more for the corner case of you've done it, you're changing jobs. Uh, if you have a position of public trust, remember in the first class I talked about the SF-86 versus the SF-84, the check for public trust. If you've got one of those, if you have a job that required that, and then you do any of these things. So this is a little different because you may not, well, you should probably lose your position of public trust because you're violating federal law. Uh, but even if you weren't caught, remember, don't lie on your SF-86. This would be an automatic disqualification. If you are a sworn law enforcement officer, so clearly, if you're supposed to be enforcing the laws against illegal, untaxed tobacco use or alcohol abuse, that wouldn't be too good. And here's another one. I don't know how many uh, watching this are in this category, but if you're an elected official, uh, or if you're elected or appointed to a position in which law enforcement authority is legally vested. So, for example, in many jurisdictions, the sheriff is elected. So if you're the sheriff and you are using anabolic steroids, which is possibly not as uncommon, that would be a disqualification. Again, mandatory disqualification. Look at the first one. You lie. You lie on your application, you're disqualified. If you distribute, sell, or transport, now notice how we now have added transporting controlled substances for profit without legal authorization. By the way, remember this is Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives. Many states, and it's kind of again a corner of state law, many states have a limit on how much alcohol you can transport without a liquor transport license. So, again, personal experience. When I was going to university in Massachusetts, I believe the limit was a case. If you had more than a case of beer or a case of wine, you needed to get a Massachusetts liquor transport certificate. I got one of those. And so I wasn't violating the law. But if you're, uh, bringing a keg back to the dorm, you should be aware that if you're going to go apply to ATF, that could be a mandatory disqualification. By the way, violating state law, uh, might not be taken very well as you're applying for a clearance. Again, facts and circumstance. If you're 30 years old and you did that when you were 22, and I I don't know if that law is still in effect in Massachusetts. I have no idea if Virginia has a similar law. It's probably a odd corner of law. So that might be a facts and circumstance. Yeah, who knows about that? And it was so long ago, fine. But if you're buying kegs of beer for underage college students, that's not going to fly very well. And then clearly, if you are a meth lab, uh, that's not going to work for ATF. If we look at Customs and Border Protection, there's basically two simple rules. Remember, they're interdicting drugs at the border. So if you've used any of the Schedule 1 through 5 drugs, so we're talking not just the marijuanas, heroines, LSDs of the world, but all the way down to you're distributing Xanax. You are giving your friends your extra Valium. That's going to be an automatic reject. Again, within 36 months of the application, or you lied on your application. That's an automatic reject. So with that, that's actually all I had for today. Coming up is the Cybersecurity Authorities Laws and Regulations. This is a topic that's adjacent to clearance preparedness, but since we are kind of heavy in the law and in policy, for anyone going into a career in cybersecurity, more especially someone who's going to go into a career with a clearance in a cleared position, it's really important to know the authorities, laws, and regulations that govern cybersecurity. After that will be social media, another, how should I say, fun one, or another one that people often get tripped up around is what's going on with social media. Then after that, we have a few invited speakers from industry and the federal government who can talk about both their experience with the program as well as possibly some of the cool things that are available at their agencies or companies. So with that, I will open it to questions. I can actually say there right now are no open questions, which is unusual. Maybe because I've done this enough times, I kind of head off because usually there are some questions about, but I used, but it was so long ago, or but I used, it was a situation. Uh, while I'm waiting for questions, this is where I believe I had shared the anecdote of someone saying, hey, my whole family uh, was either using or distributing drugs. Does that mean I cannot get a clearance? We're looking at you. If you weren't using drugs, uh, that's not going to be an issue. Uh, it would not be fair to say that you're not going to get scrutinized, but you won't have that automatic disqualification. Um, so I will leave it open. Here we go. Uh, Actually, this is a really good question. Kind of similar situation. There's a family member in the household that is using CBD for medication. Um, does that mean you can't get a clearance? Uh, the very short answer is not a problem at all. And by the way, there's no question on the SF-86 that says, does a member of your household use illegal drugs? Uh, Answer the questions that are asked. No more, no less. Uh, that said, some people use CBD oil on their lips. I will admit to being paranoid. That becomes a no-kiss zone. Uh, I had an in-law who was a pilot. So they have very similar rules. And again, it's kind of what you would want. You don't want someone flying under the influence. Uh, and someone in the family made them cookies with marijuana in it. And he rightly totally freaked out. Uh, by the way, reportable event, but you know, what do you think's going to happen with the hey, facility security officer, I want to self-report. Uh, I accidentally ingested a bite of a cookie, um, versus you fail a drug test. In the first case, you're demonstrating your trustworthiness. You're demonstrating, even though, questionable judgment to have the cookie. Uh, but again, you didn't know, because if you did know, that's another story. But you didn't know. You took a bite. You found out about it. You've declared it. Um, Versus you just failed the test. Now, if every month you come in and say, "Oh wow, I accidentally had a cookie," that's not going to look good. Or, I just had a bite and your THC markers in your urine are just off the scale, well, that's going to be a different story. But again, be open, honest, and truthful. So, yes, you can still get a clearance even if someone else in your household is using CBD. Any other questions? Well, I guess, Kendall, why don't you do your thing very slowly, which if someone is slow to type, they'll have their opportunity to get their question in. But if there are no more questions, I have no problem ending a little bit early. So, Kendall, over to you.
Okay, great. I will be very, very slow to end it. Thank you all for joining us today. As Dr. Eric Berger mentioned, we have our next one on June 4th from noon to 1 p.m., and we look forward to you joining us. Thank you.
Oh, here we go. We got one. We got one. This is a good, actually, and maybe next year I'll remember to put this in. I was so focused on marijuana because it's the legal thing that's illegal. Well, this question is about the legal thing that's legal, and that's alcohol use. There is a whole section of the SF-86 on alcohol use. And in fact, the section is alcohol abuse. So, uh, alcohol is legal. If you occasionally drink, that's not going to disqualify you for a clearance unless you have a job that requires you to not drink. So again, I'm a pilot. It's against the law for me to fly within 8 hours of having a drink. It's against common sense to fly within 24 hours of having a drink. Uh, so even though it's legal, except for that 8 hour window, we actually have this, larger uh, practical window. So yeah, drinking occasionally doesn't qualify you, but if you show up for work drunk, or even if you just show up for work with alcohol on your breath, not going to be taken very well. And they talk about what is the definition of heavy drinking. So no, that was a good question. Occasional drinking does not disqualify you, but and it's in the fitting of, those other drugs that I talked about today, prescription drugs. It's the abuse that they're looking for. So if you abuse alcohol, that's going to be a problem. But if you legally use alcohol, it's not. Just like the pilot story, if you have some DUIs, that's showing poor judgment. And again, that's what they're really looking for. It's less about, oh, you have a drink, and more about, do you show good judgment when you do? So thank you. That was a good question. I think we have exhausted the questioning. So one last time, Kendall, you can do it at normal speed, and we can edit it together.
Okay. Well, we will see you all on June 4th. If you have any questions, you can always shoot me an email at kwbeebe@vt.edu, and I'm happy to relay those questions over to Dr. Berger. And with that,